Start show. There we go. Hopefully this does it. There we go. Fingers crossed. Look at that. Oh, hey. That looks like a green line. Now it looks like I'm seeing stuff. Hold on. Could be. This is right. Let's go live with this guy. And cool. I think so. Actual output's a little choppy and weird, but it's happening. Kinda. I think. Let's see. Drink. All right. Look at that. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting a bit rate that's worth using. Look at that. It's me looking at checking my gear. I've got checking gear face there for a moment. Pardon me, folks. Yeah, I think so. I'm starting a little bit early today because I didn't trust the setup and the like. So, fingers crossed, we should be all right. I'll log into Chicago in about 10 minutes and make sure we're up and running and the like. Yeah, the mic became unnecessary. Yeah, it's okay. I'll use it for other stuff. A little Trump microphone. So, yeah, up and running, you guys. All good here. If you don't mind, tweet out the show. Send whatever sharing you can to help people join in the party today. Lost the chat, but now it's back. Okay, good. Yeah, it takes. I think it dumps out occasionally. Whoops. And now, yeah, looks good as a set piece though. The mic. Oh yeah, I agree. Well, the mic we're talking about is Michelle is not the actual big mic that I use. It's hold on. It's it's this little guy. Hold on, where is it? It's this thing. It's my little mic, Trump actual size Trump microphone. This is what he used on The Apprentice whenever he'd use a handheld mic because it fits his hands. And I use it temporarily sometimes when I need, but I don't need it today because sonically I think we're okay. Fingers crossed. There's no way to really know. Yeah. But we're drinking tea and we're going to be talking cheese and politics. It's going to be a good time. My girlfriend's going to give me a kiss before the show starts. Can you shut the door for me, babe, so that
no one bothers you?
The dogs don't charge in here and start gnawing on my stuff? Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what's happening? I gotta remind me, guys, not to forget to sign on to Chicago in 10 minutes, because I'll get carried away and we'll be talking, and then I'll forget all about it. So, no, I have the new one at the house. Yeah, looks like a microphone used on Donnie. Yeah, that's right. Why? What seems to be the problem? What's happening, Carl? Starting a 500-mile drive this morning to my sister's home. Oh my gosh. Yeah, on the holidays. Thank you guys for being with me over the holidays, by the way. I appreciate it. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Christmas weekend. Oh, I see dogs down by the creek, so they're actually coming back from their walk soon. This is going to be crazy. But Lord knows we'll have plenty to talk about today. The government is officially shut down as of midnight last night. Good morning, Seattle, Susie Q. Carl, drive safely. What you doing for the holidays? I'm in Kentucky right now, and my mom and my girlfriend and my son and I are all going driving to Cleveland today to have Christmas number 2 with the fam up there. We're starting a day late. Our checks were stolen out of the post office and delayed our start one day, cleaning up the mess, opening a new account, closing the old one. Oh my gosh, Carl, it's terrible. I don't think Social Security would be affected. Social Security should not be affected, technically, EO. The check should go out. Although, if it goes on for a while, then the check delivery will eventually be affected. Um, so sorry to hear about that, Carl. So we will be driving up there today and spending the next couple of days there and having Christmas there. And then on Christmas Day, heading back to Vegas and spending a week there and having another Christmas. So there's we're dragging this all over the. It's just what happens when you have a 7-year-old and everybody wants to be, along, wants to be a stop along the tour. So, yeah. 8 minutes. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Yeah, guys, keep me locked in there. I'm going to sign in 5 minutes, and we'll have the last 5 minutes of the Doris Davenport show, and then into the news. Once they get into the news, we'll have a. I think she'll be able to cut audio, and we'll be able to talk again or whatever. But I'll try and not talk over Doris. Whoa. Baked a check under our account for $1,100. Good grief.
Our great country must have.
Oh, shut up. Oh, I've got to call up my other news stories real quick in this because I'm going to be using the iPad for the beginning of this nonsense. Let's see. Call it a slat fence, call it whatever you want. Call it a pile of garbage. Call it bullshit if you're Maisie Hirona. Who saved all the VHS? Oh, the ones behind me? That's my dad's me collection. That's stuff that my dad collected of, my appearances and stuff over the years. Before I was able to send them digital copies of stuff. Includes includes a lot of stuff, but it's got me on the Tonight Show and other stuff, and then he's got his own. There's a fishing trip that I took with my grandfather that we also have. And then he's got a copy of Jobber Chicks in Zombie Town. Morocco, Julie, you are so impressive. You have you are the envy of the entire chat room travel wise. I'm sure the tapes have sentimental value for them. They do, absolutely. They do for me, much less for him. So I'm like hugging my mug of tea too because it's cold down here. I'm down in the basement of the house doing the show. It's a little chilly. I hear water running. That means Camden's going to be taking his bath. So. Yeah, I'm going through the chat room. Hi. All right, so we're almost there. Okay, so it's 5 minutes from now. I gotta sign on to Chicago. Try and keep the audio.
I've read some of those things, and I would do the same defense of most of these candidates. Probably not Daley or Chico, but really, if you go to the leaders of those communities, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Orleans, they will not say what you say.
It's me.
You have to.
No, they do. I've been.
Wait a minute. I've done the
Can you hear me?
Yes,
just
I hear
saying,
you great.
Listen, Paul Vallis is not a candidate. None of them are my candidates. But I've done homework too. So if I know something, I can't have somebody call and denigrate somebody when I know that there are.
Just trust me on this. Oh. Poor Doris. She gets the circular firing squad callers all the time. Everybody who calls into her show is, it's like, this person isn't liberal enough. Like, that's it. That's 100%. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I will. I will gladly sit in on Doris's show the next time I'm in Chicago. I insist. I'll come in a whole 2 hours early. We're almost there. Shoot. Oh, great. Okay. I'm talking to Lady B, by the way, chat room. I turned off the feed just so you guys didn't have to hear, the other radio feed. So, but I'll bring it back when we're rolling. What's happening, Brad? Yeah, Carl, it's amazing. It's glad. Yeah, country number 42 for the boys, getting close to the goal of 50. That's amazing. I've been hard at work at Grubhub this week. Looking forward to the break. Wow. All right. Julie, tell me the rest of your life is like. You're always somewhere. It's like, where in the world is Super Chat, Julie? This is true. Hold on one second. I'm calling up a... This... The stuff coming up in this first hour. Well, there you go, EO. Oh. That's so cute, Lady B. Something's going on in there.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Oh, wants to play with bubbles.
Federal government shutdown. I'm Christopher Cruz. It's been a day of negotiations between the White House and Congress to try to come up with a budget bill President Trump will sign. The federal government has been in a partial shutdown since midnight. Correspondent Suzanne Malveaux on Capitol Hill says it's make or break today.
I had a chance to talk to Senator James Lankford. He is a Republican from Oklahoma on the Appropriations Committee, and what he told me is the hope is that perhaps when the Senate convenes at noon, they might be able to offer Senate Majority Mitch McConnell a deal saying this is what we have agreed on behind the scenes. If that does not happen at noon, he says expect to see a much longer period of time when you have this government shutdown.
In a tweet within the hour, President Trump writes, I'm in the White House working hard. News reports concerning the shutdown in Syria are mostly fake. We are negotiating with the Democrats on desperately needed border security.
Desperately needed border security.
I'm Christopher Cruz.
We need
border. A man and a woman have been arrested and charged with illegally flying drones near London's Gatwick Airport this week.
We need borders everywhere.
Delays for thousands of passengers.
America,
Anna
my plan to turn you into a gated community.
They were talking about the possibility of just shooting the drone out of the sky. Again, that was actually something that was ruled out earlier in the week because they were worried about the danger to the public.
Police aren't giving out any information about the two people
they arrested.
The video the airport, however, is getting back up to full operation.
On Twitter that they sent out? Good Lord. Oh, well, thank you. Look, that $6.67. Thank you. An extra penny, Michelle, for the 666 Fifth Avenue. By buy out the government was shut down, but I still think I have a job. I don't think we were affected. Yeah, not yet. Well, it's Homeland Security that got affected the most. Hope the Democrats don't move off of Trump's lies about Mexico will pay for the wall 100%. This whole thing would be a non-issue if he hadn't lied about that. Well, yeah. Holy smokes. I mean, that's the joke of it. Like, that's all. I would say that's the only thing you have to hammer the whole thing. You know, the Democrats just need to keep reinforcing this was a wall Mexico was supposed to pay for 100%. Just keep saying 100%. 100%. This was 100%. Mexico. Who's going to pay for the wall? Mexico. 100%. 100%. 100%, folks. Oh my God. Like, just like keep hammering that. I thought this. What is this now? Mexico is going to pay for the wall 20%? 10%? Is it a payment plan? Mexico is going to put the slat fence on layaway, 100%, 3% interest if I don't fire Chairman Powell, which is another problem. If Mexico is going to pay for the wall, I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, that's a big if. That if is just an I and an F, as in it's. Yes, SSI checks will still be issued. This is true. No other point needs to be made about this ever. Absolutely, Carl. Like that, you're absolutely right. That it is simply like that needs to be just driven home repeatedly, nonstop. Yeah, why are we not? You know, if Mexico doesn't pay for the wall, we're going to shut down Mexico. No other point. Yeah, like madness. This is just the goofiest bunch of crap. Hold on, I'm gonna send out I'm gonna tweet out this. And welcome to the show, everybody. Just to, we're going to start up in just a moment. If you're just now joining us, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, thumbs up the video, all that stuff. Super chat if it's within your realm of possibility. And if you can't, do me a favor and at least either tweet it out. There's all those icons down at the bottom where you can share the show on social media to get kind of people involved, and then of course you can use Facebook if you trust it at all. I because of the difficulty of maintaining a name-based brand on any social media thing, I'm gonna keep my Facebook page, but I'm basically not using it. I'm effectively on Twitter and YouTube these days is the primary thing, and I use Instagram to some degree, but mainly I will like all that stuff about them sharing private messages with corporations, that want to buy it is just, yeah. Like that. This was, I mean, every time you think Facebook couldn't possibly get worse.
30 seconds.
Okay, cool. Plus, if the wall is made of steel, it's even more expensive because of Trump's tariffs. Yeah, the irony. I pound the Republicans with it. Own it. Yeah. Next thing you know, he'll claim Mexican restaurants are paying for the wall, so we should all shut up. Yeah. Just the taco bowls available in Trump Tower. We're donating. Not really donating because the foundation got shut down and I'm not allowed to do any charity work because of all the theft. The entire situation wherein the lead up to the shutdown, this push, to create a situation where the Democrats will be saddled with this. I was going to call it the Pelosi shutdown. I was going to call it the Pelosi shutdown. And then all of a sudden, this plan to lay the shutdown off on Democrats, which is what you do anytime you have to shut the government down. You have to blame the other side. Trump goes, no, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take on I'm going to take it on. I will take the shit. You know, if you want to put it on me, fine. I'll take it on. This is his tough guy approach. And the tough guy approach fails miserably because the shutdown does happen. And then all of a sudden, because of Trump's intransigence, which we will get to why in just a few moments, because none of it has anything to do with a rise in illegal immigration or border crossings or a difficulty dealing with those things. Because when we're talking about border security and him watering down the message about whether it's slats or a wall, call it slats, all of those elements, that is a huge distraction away from the horrible week in the last month, but the last 2 weeks especially, that Trump has had, not the least of which that basically started the major cascade starting at Cohen's sentencing and Flynn's the punt of his sentencing, which made things worse for Trump. Don't let anybody tell you different, because I have my own theories, and I'm sure some of you will share that theory. We'll see, but the entire question of border security being the reason for the shutdown is simply just a sales pitch, and you can tell it from how Trump did his little video. I don't know how many of you actually saw the little video that was on his Twitter feed. Here's a little slice of the audio.
We don't want people coming in that aren't supposed to be here. We want people to come in through a legal process.
By the way, he's gesturing with his hands and screaming. He's in the White House. There's no helicopter. He's just talking over. Volume will sell it when logic will not. Is right. But he's doing that weird hand gesturing, thing that he does. That he was taught on The Apprentice when they ran him through like quickie host school. Now these words you have to put emphasis on those words. So try to touch your fingers together. Remember where those words are. And every time whoever the host was would tell him to, whoever they were talking, and they would say, they would put their thumb and their index finger together and go, just hit that for me. So he would unconsciously started picking up that very tick, and now he does it as well. So, okay. And so this is, he's continued to do this. But listen to how much he sounds like a local car salesman trying to tell you about a weekend sale that they have every weekend.
It's very dangerous out there. Drugs are pouring in.
By the way, as he's yelling this, they throw video of people stampeding past a barrier and shaking a fence. That video is pretty slapdash looking and is there simply to fix the issue that they have with him, just cover edits, essentially.
Human trafficking, so many different problems, including gangs like MS-13. We don't want them in the United States. We don't want them in our country. The only thing that's going to stop that is great border security.
Okay, so the softening of we need the wall to border security, because that's a poll-tested phrase that works. And my favorite little swap over is coming right here.
With a wall or a slat fence or whatever you want to call it.
Right. Okay. So we have completely thrown. I just love that. I literally that just.
Slat fence or whatever you want to call it.
How about I want to call it a giant turd pile? How about that? How about the biggest? I can't quote Mazie Hirono on the air because apparently you can get away with it if you're serving in the government, but I can't say BS on the air.
Or a slat fence or whatever you want to call it.
We should just start making up names for the slat fence. Oh my God! And to think about how. Look back at, we need a wall, big beautiful wall, and Mexico is going to pay for the wall. 100%. Who's going to pay for the wall? Mexico. 100%. It's going to be a big, beautiful wall. This is all about him and his monument to himself. Mexico's going to pay for it, 100%, big, beautiful wall. And now, slat fence, whatever you want to call it, and Mexico's going to pay for it indirectly via the renegotiated NAFTA, which is almost identical, except in conjunction with the Republican tax bill, makes it actually easier for companies to move their factories out of the United States. You heard that right. But imagine the rallying cry, the vibrant. You remember how much crap they gave Obama about the "you can keep your doctor" thing? Because Obama was, when he was talking about "you can keep your doctor," I think like a logical human being thought, why would you want to keep your doctor if they don't cover everything and they won't do everything for you? You can't keep a program that will not pay for your ambulance, won't pay for pre-existing conditions and all these things. And if your doctor is a maniac in a red state who insists on not being involved in those plans because he'd rather work on people who are sicker than heal people before they get that sick, then why would you want that doctor in the first place? But some people who are crazy would want to keep that doctor because they're insane. And so when Obama was going, "you can keep your doctor," I think he was thinking within the realm of logical people actually wanting to live. And a few of those doctors didn't want to be a part of that. So some people didn't get to keep their doctors. And they ragged on that nonstop. The very same people who are letting this slat fence paid for in installments kinda through maybe tariffs from Mexico I can't wait for just to let this glide. But, all right, so.
But we need a great barrier. And if we don't have it, it's never going to work. Last night, the House of Reps.
So it's never going to work. Okay, first of all, it is going to work. We have a lot more high-tech ways of stopping people from crossing the border. We have Border Patrol that are through cameras, through all kinds of systems, they legally are able to, round these people up. And those who are only coming over here for financial reasons can be sifted away from people who are coming here because they are seeking asylum. And people who are coming for financial reasons can apply to become workers like everybody else. But people who are seeking asylum are in a different group. And by denying people who are looking for legitimate asylum and refusing to do the actual work of governing, which says in this caravan, in this group of people who's coming up here right now, there are people who are here for asylum, and there are people who are using the asylum seekers as a way to just get in as financial migrants. A functioning government and country would look at those people and recognize there is a difference and try to separate out the ones who are actually here seeking asylum and do the due diligence of actually doing the job of governing and respect the laws of our country and international law that we are a party to, and separate those from people who are simply just trying to come in and jump to the head of the line in an immigration situation. But what they've done is they've lumped everybody together because anybody brown is awful. That's the Stephen Miller methodology. So,
representatives passed this very important bill, 217 to 185. Some people were surprised by the number. I wasn't. Don't forget, if you buy a sedan right now, I'll throw in a set of white walls. I'm crazy. Because everybody wants to see our border protected. Now it's up to the Senate, and it's really up to the Democrats, because we need their votes. There's no way it can pass without their vote.
He throws in, by the way, during his "there's no way it can pass without their votes," he throws in a picture of Chuck Schumer, like it's Schumer's fault, or that he can't, it's a problem whipping his people, and Schumer should be able to, because he's the minority leader, force these Democrats into voting for something that they have no reason to vote for. There is no benefit to this. Now, Schumer famously put in this possibility of a $20 million for the border fencing, extension, the steel slat kind of situation through a bunch of stuff, which, by the way, is not that different from a lot of the fencing bills that have been put up before over certain areas. But he put it in there with okay, but you got to give us DACA. You got to protect these kids. And Trump refused, and the Republicans refused. So why in the hell would you give them slat money, which is a waste of time anyways, that you're willing to balance that out with the financial benefit of people who are living off the grid and in danger of being kicked out of the country at any given time? Righting that circumstance is worth more financially as a benefit to the country long term than the $20 billion you would spend on slat fencing. And so that's a trade. That's a financial trade. That's a fiscally conservative way of doing the trade. You let DACA people live like normal, and the benefit from both them being financially above the surface, where they paid taxes normally and they're able to go through all this process, and they get to go into the military, not fear being deported, and they can get an education, and benefiting from that education, being in the United States, benefits the entire country. So the long-term benefits of these people being able to live normally is much higher than 20 or 5 or $20 billion. But if you're not going to give that, then this is just throwing money down a hole because the slat fencing isn't necessary in those parts that he just wants to build it. This all boils down to Trump wants his own monument. This is Trump's Mount Rushmore, and this is what he wants it for. And the racists amongst his party, the Ann Coulters of the world, this is a monument to their racism as well. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. This is the House Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. I think we're on. Lady B, do we have is she running around trying to fix the signal? I don't know. Hopefully everything's fine. But either way, if we're at break, that's us going to break. Here we go. Right on. Sounds like us going to break. Yeah, good. Okay, so it's working. So yeah, I'm gonna roll back and look at you guys. If Trump was smart, he should have taken the deal from DACA. Exactly. He would have negotiated a real deal. I think Hal needs to go talk to Trump. That man would never be the same. I agree. I was thinking about during the whole thing about the chief of staff job that I want to offer myself as chief of staff. The total amount of lies that Trump has told, like, I mean, my contrarian nature, which I don't really, I don't foster it much. My contrarian nature, and no, the slat fence does not come with clear coat. That's extra. Everybody knows that, darn tootin'. Yes, thank you for reminding everybody, Julie. Like and subscribe to the video. Don't forget. Look at that. We got 167 people in here, even on a holiday weekend. It's good to have you guys. Let's see. On December 13th to 14th, 2018, you may see a noticeable decrease in your subscriber count as we remove spam from your channel. Cool. No problem. Good. Maybe that puts me on more even keel because I think all mine are real. All right. Trump doesn't want a wall. He just wants to look like he wants a wall. Although I think he would love them to build a wall and it's, and basically it's got his name on it forever. The Great Wall of America. I think he's looking at it as as an emblematic leftover of, the idea is that his presidency is only for a short time, but if he could put up a monument, this is his version of the highway program. Meanwhile, by the way, if he'd have spent any of this interest and this focus on infrastructure, remember, it is infrastructure week, isn't it, Carl? You're the one keeping track of this. You're on the road right now. That if he'd have spent this on infrastructure, there'd be highways named after him all over the place.
Less commercial.
Okay, great.
20 seconds.
Okay, cool. This is true. Hi, my love. I'm on the radio. I got 20 seconds. Give me a kiss. Love you. Did you take a bath?
I took a bath.
Good. Dry your hair, though.
Can I play in the pool with the dogs?
No.
It's my last day.
It's freezing.
It's the last day.
We'll talk about it after. Okay, after I'm done with radio, we'll talk about it. Yeah. but dry your hair.
This is Ron Calgill.
And this is Robbie Earhart.
And you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's a lot to say. Why doesn't he just say the Hal Sparks Show?
I mean that's much simpler, isn't it?
I know. We're Mighty House Radio Show. That's easy.
Yeah, well, that's because the Mighty House Radio Show only goes to like 4 counties, and I'm all over the world. I have people in the chat room. Julie's in Morocco, for Christ's sake. I've got people. I am mega worldwide, by God. Okay, so let's get back to Trump's panicked used car salesman video.
We're going to have a shutdown. There's nothing we can do about that because we need the Democrat.
No, okay. First of all, there is something you could do about it. You could sign the bill that the Senate passed and the House was ready to pass. Totally done. Totally done. It's super easy.
To give us their votes. Call it a Democrat shutdown. Call it whatever you want.
That's the big thing about him. Call it whatever you want. I don't care. Just call it a Democrat. And by the way, that is a derivative of the actual, it's a linguistic trick he plays pretty regularly, which is label it and then pretend the label doesn't matter. I'm calling it this bad thing, but you don't have to call it that, but that's what it is. It's one of his linguistic tricks. But it's pretty lame. But it's amazing how people fall for it.
But we need their help to get this approved. So
they're not going to approve it. It's not going to happen. Unless there's a trade for MAGA. There's been some talk about bringing that bill back up, and even if this goes down, Trump could walk away with I got to win. I got $20 billion for the border wall. This would still be the Chuck Schumer win. I mean, Trump will sell it to himself and to his supporters all he wants. But whatever you do, don't call it a comeback. Yeah. This is, in all seriousness, this may be a long play that took over a year and a half to get effectively the Schumer deal on DACA. Medicare for all is what I read on the news blurb. Yeah, that's never going to pass. The Senate will kill that dead. That's why they're saying there's no way through the Senate with any of the proposals they've seen except for the continuing resolution. And basically, they're just waiting this out until the Democrats control the House so they can start laying blame for some of the financial problems that Trump has started at their feet. The problem that Trump has right now, and there's a lot that he's panicking about. We're going to talk about that this hour. That kind of lead up to why we're having this shutdown over the wall is because he's losing his base of support, especially the big suburban outsides, because of the financial markets tanking and because of his weird getting rid of Mattis and going after Powell, going after the Fed chairman right now, are a drag on his numbers with anybody except effectively the America First MAGA hat wearing rednecks that are his last bastion of hope. And even those guys, there's the reports after these factories being shut down in Iowa that people are sick of him lying to them and all this kind of stuff. Now there's still people that will hold true to him no matter what. But their plan was this economic issue that's coming. We are headed towards a recession of some sort, if not a full-on depression, because the last time around it was at the tail end of the Bush years, and there was an idea that the Democrats could guide it back to health. Now, one of the biggest financial, the argument has been, Trump has done such great things with the economy and way better than Obama, and everybody was on food stamps, and more people went on food stamps during Obama than ever in history. Never mind the fact that Obama came into a crash caused by the policies of the Republican Party leading up to it. It's the part where, remember who was the basically his Main secretary, it was covered in flop sweat. His Bush's. I'm blitzing on his name right now. It's just but I can see his face, and that's what made it. His name jumped out of my head because it's so ugly. Just the shaking fit that his financial advisors were having on camera about the where we were headed economically. And Obama comes into this at this point in by the measures. When Obama came in, stock market's at 6,400. When Obama leaves, it's at 19,000. Okay, at 2 years in, the stock market had rebounded 45%. From when he came into office. Had grown 45% since Obama came back in. When Trump came in at this point in his presidency, the stock market has gone up 18%. So Obama has was better for the stock market in the first 2 years of his presidency. He did twice as much benefit to the stock market as Trump has done. And he came in with a crash. Now, the fact that it was so low and undervalued played a part in that, but not that much of a part of it. And no one was expecting that it would actually rebound. They were expecting us to go straight into a depression on many fronts. Yes, thank you, Carl. I knew you would do it. Hank Paulson. Hank Paulson was the flop sweat freak out that everybody saw when Bush's economic advisors are freaking out, and Hank Paulson comes out and goes, "Yeah, this is for real," he looked like a Stryker in Airplane with just the flop sweat. And so again, by every measure, Obama's structural control and of the economy and focus on it not only kept us out of a depression, but was far ahead of the benefit on the ground that Trump could even hope to do. Now, after Trump's policies have gone into effect, because there is a lag time. When you're president for the first year, a lot of the stuff you're doing is stuff, you're setting policies and programs where the benefit will be felt, as much as a year later. So if you look at Trump's policies right now, you're starting to see them bear fruit. And that fruit, that rotten, stinky, E. coli-ridden fruit, is the fact that the stock market has had its worst week since 2011. And the biggest drop since the Great Depression. This is Trumponomics. This is MAGAnomics actually starting to bear fruit. And the Republicans could see it coming months ago, because they knew their tax policy would end up only benefiting certain corporations. They knew that certain corporations that benefited from it would immediately move their stuff overseas because they benefited from a tax loophole in it. Meanwhile, they were planning, we'll just dump this, now that the Dems have won the House, we'll just dump this at their feet. Except the crap hit the fan before they took the oath of office. The biggest problem that the Republicans have right now is the fact that all these economic indicators and all these failures are coming in before the Democrats have been sworn in, and certainly well before they've started to implement any purse string control on the Trump, I'd say policy, but I don't know that there's actually any policy. I think it's a bunch of flailing nonsense. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It is the House Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide, Mighty House, and there's a reason. We'll be talking to you guys in the chat room as well right after this. I think, let's see. So I'm going to roll back. Did anybody see Santa Obama? I love that man. Yeah, that was really sweet. What goes up must come down. It's time. Yeah, the stock market obviously was due for a correction, but that's why you treat it with you got to understand it's going to do that naturally, and you've got to limit the fall once it starts. You got to, that's why you mandate economic policy. That's why you have to you're a shepherd for all this stuff. You can't control all of it, but you can keep, you can keep the sheep from running off the cliff is your main job. You had one job. Yeah, Amos with a cricket president. This is what happens. Trump is completely incapable of coping with a complex crisis. We're going to need President Obama in part 3. Yeah. Excuse me, stewardess. I speak. Being in buying transit's been hell. Yeah, but her emails, right? I also think Trump lives for the unveiling of the wall. He'd have a huge rally-sized crowd. And with the countdown clock, he'd pull a tarp off the wall, revealing a gold Trump placard. Yeah. They say that when you're busy, you're putting out fires. When Trump gets busy, it seems awfully clear that he is starting fires all along. Yeah. I don't normally equate a president with the stock market going up or down, but Trump has done enough to make it happen, I believe. Well, certainly the one area where they do have control of it is if they can panic it, they can cause a drop. There's no question that if the one area where a president can't control economic policy on the one-to-one enough to affect the stock market on a personal level. Long-term policies, taxes and whatnot, and to some degree interest rates certainly can make people move their money from stocks into more long-term investments for stability, and people with diversified holdings will do that automatically. Yes, there's a train going by. And that's some of what you're seeing, by the way. Carl, it was Thomas Rusalala. That's hilarious. Wait, who did that? Who's super chatting? I just saw that come up or whatever. Hold on 1 second. Say what? Thank you so much. Say what? And thank you, Billy. I missed that one. And thank you, Michelle, as well. Billy, that was really sweet. For the House Sparks, you bet your mama this show is worldwide fun. That's absolutely true. And happy holidays to Hal and all. Anything and anyone I missed. That's really great. Thank you so much. And with $19.99, you get clear coat.
25 seconds, okay. And we have callers already.
I don't doubt it. Yeah. Okay, I'll finish this video and then I'll start taking callers. I'm going to play the rest of that, so yeah. Say what? How my wife Jody says she learns a lot listening to you and you explain with me. Oh, that's great. I'm Pete. I appreciate that. I try.
This is Doris Davenport, host of The Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. I'm on every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, right before Hal Sparks. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's right. So, see, Doris doesn't play. She knows we earned our name. Okay, so let's finish out this maniac video from the president.
Democrats, we have a wonderful list of things that we need to keep our country safe.
Apparently, that list is a bunch of giant pencils. I don't know if you guys saw the Twitter picture that he tweeted out. It's a beautiful wall. It looked like clip art. It was ridiculous. It looked like a clip art truck in front of a wall of clip art pencils.
Let's get out. Let's work together. Let's be bipartisan, and let's get it done. The shutdown hopefully will not last long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that was the president's big pitch, right? The big pitch is we got to have this, call it a slat fence, whatever you want, call it a democratic shutdown, whatever you want, but we need their votes for border security. No, you don't. You need their votes for this nonsensical physical barrier that you think is going to go up, across thousands of miles, and that was a wall, and then it was a see-through, and then it was a slat fence, but that's going to be beautiful. The giant rusty slat fence that when he does show sections of a wall and claims that he's built them. When they were saying we built all this stuff, and they show the giant rusty metal, like it looks like kind of triangulated pieces of metal interlaced together. Ridiculous. Okay, so many of you thought, and I'm going to get to, let me grab some calls, and then we need to talk about the fact that last night the Republicans called an emergency meeting about cheese. I'm not kidding. Some of you may have seen this on Rachel, but the Kurd Act, which makes people think it's, it has to do with Syria and the Kurds who we are abandoning to slaughter, by the way. The Kurd Act was about them, but it's actually about cheese, and it's ridiculous, and it seems silly, and there's a lot of jokes to be made about it. But one of the gifts of being a comedian is that you can not only see what's funny about something that most people don't think is funny, you can also look at what's funny and break it down and go, this isn't that funny, and here's why. I want to talk about that a little bit when after we take some calls. But who do we have first, Lady B?
Oh, we have Ike.
Oh, Ike! Oh my God, Ike!
Hey,
how are you, brother? How are you? It's good to hear from you. Merry Christmas. You have been sorely missed. I'm glad to hear your voice.
Hey, buddy, it's good to be talking to you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And hope you have a good New Year and all that.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think the Democrats' messaging on the immigration is just wrong, and they need to get it straight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of hearing these Republicans coming up to the and throwing it in the Democrats' face that, all we want is open borders,
right,
and we don't care about security, and we just think that anybody that wants to come in here should be able to come in here,
right,
and all of that crap. We want comprehensive immigration reform.
Yes.
I'll tell you how you get serious. About it.
Okay.
The message should be this. If you want to stop illegal immigration, then you crack down on illegal employers.
Yep.
Because they're the real criminals in the process.
That's right.
They're the ones that support Trump, and they're all about waving the flag and talking about how they love their country. But when it comes down to it, whether it's Mar-a-Lago or here in the state of South Carolina, whether it's the Kiowa Island group out there where all the millionaires live, they all run on illegal immigrants.
Trump Tower.
And the reason they do it is because they can treat them poorly. They can actually get them killed on construction sites because they'll do as they're told. Because if they don't, they'll pull the string on them and they'll wind up in immigration jail. Okay?
Along with their families, by the way, so it's effectively holding them hostage as well.
Exactly.
That's
they're
right.
Exploiting labor is all they're doing. And yet at the same time, they've got the nerve to sit there and scream about a wall.
Yeah.
Well, if we start taking them to task, you catch them, you fine them, you fine the employers, you take money out of their pocket, and then you use that money to deal with whatever part of this problem you add on some judges for the asylum hearings,
right?
And fund the system, etc. And if they get really out of hand and you catch them again, take their business away from them. Start making them pay. It's the same way with the gun problem, my man. I want a war on violent criminals with guns. I want a war on gun crime. And I want a war on irresponsible gun owners. And I don't give a damn if they own them legal or not. If a kid finds your gun in your house and shoots his brother or his little sister or himself, I'm sorry. I don't care.
You need to be culpable.
Or not.
Yeah.
I'll send you to jail.
I will say I will say I agree with you as far as we need a massive movement to deal with this kind of massive problem. I always shy away from the war on phraseology, not because I'm a pacifist about stuff, but that everything we seem to declare war on gets bigger, not smaller. We declared a war on poverty, and homelessness went up. We declared a war on drugs, and drugs became cheaper and easier to get. Like that, it's an analogy that doesn't work in a civil society, but I completely understand. But you're absolutely right. Like, I believe that people who own guns that are used in crimes should be responsible in the same way that if they gave their car to somebody they knew was drunk and that person ran someone over, if you gave them the keys knowing that they were going to be irresponsible and that led to someone's death, you should be culpable in that. Maybe you don't go to the same amount of jail they go to, but you damn sure have some mitigatory, punishment involved in that.
Well, let me run it this way on the gun topic. If I catch you with an illegal weapon because you're not supposed to have one, or you've got one with the numbers filed off, or it's a stolen weapon, and you're not supposed to have that damn thing, as far as I'm concerned, you get 20 years and you do 20 years. Quit stuffing up our jails with nonviolent, criminals or people. Empty the jails out, get the potheads out of there, get the, treat the drug addicts like it's a medical problem, put a GPS thing on them, let them go to work, etc. But I'm talking about draw the line on violent criminals.
I agree.
And particularly if they've got a gun. And by God, give them a hard time, give them a long time. They didn't have a problem doing it with people, that were selling pot or doing victimless crimes. But now all of a sudden, it seems to be a problem when we're talking about people that are ready to be out there shooting and killing people. And by the way, if you get caught committing a crime and you've got a gun in your possession that you're not supposed to have, I'd give you 50 years. And you'll do 50 years.
Right.
And then, by God, guess what? I bet you won't do it again.
Well, you won't have an opportunity to, because by the time you get out, you'll be too old to pull off those kind of crimes again. But you're absolutely right, and you might see that. Here's two problems that will come from that. Is that you will see a loss of money in the prison complex, in the prison industrial complex, because violent crime has been going down for years. And so the incarceration of nonviolent drug offenders and the like has gone up precipitously, basically because there's money to be made, and we've had multiple cases of these judges getting kickbacks and deals or having investments in these large prison companies, and there's just not the reality is that no matter what the news tells you, there aren't enough violent criminals to warrant this many jails. And if you're doing prisons for profit, that's a big issue. Plus, when you deal with nonviolent drug offenders and you deal with thieves and people who can actually be rehabilitated back into society, the management of that takes maturity. You can't just sell the violence coming over the border, terrorists, they're screaming people. You can't sell that kind of nonsense to people, because you know that these people aren't the same kind of dangerous. We're all capable of understanding the difference there. But when you come back, I want to hit before we go, we're almost to the break, but I want to hit back on your first point, which I think was really important. Was that the Democrats really need to make sure that we're pushing the comprehensive immigration reform bill that could pass the Senate even when in the House, even when Republicans ran it, which is why the leadership would not bring it up for a vote, because they knew it was so bipartisan it would pass easily. It would pass in a veto-proof majority, which is why they couldn't bring it up. They couldn't bring it up during Bush. They wouldn't bring it to the floor during Obama, and they certainly didn't bring it up. They held it in committee when the Democrats ran the House. Now that we're back to that point, I think you're going to see a very strong possibility that, depending on how this whole thing shakes out, that if it doesn't get signed just to bring the government back online, that some variation of it might be brought to the floor by Nancy Pelosi, and it could go through. Mitch McConnell would kill it, but it's there. Yeah, go ahead.
And two last quick things.
Yeah.
Hey to everybody in the chat room. And, hey, here's a tip for you.
Yeah.
If you can get your hands on one of these new Ninja Foodie pressure cooker air crisper type deals, look it up. I'm telling you, man, not only will you love it, it'll save you a buttload of power money.
All right.
It'll save a lot of electricity. Check out the Ninja Foodie. That's what I've been messing with for the last 2 weeks.
Well, all right.
I'm not much of a cook, but I'm telling you, man, this thing will make an air fryer look like a step.
I've seen the ads for it, and I wouldn't buy it based on the ads, but I would on your recommendation. So there you go. There's no money has changed hands for this pitch, but we just respect Ike enough that we would take that very seriously. Dude, thanks for calling in. It is so good to hear from you. And Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a great holiday season, and we'll all ride this out together. You're awesome.
Yes,
be well.
You hang in there, buddy.
Thank you. You too. Cheers. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program Mega, worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, AM 820. That's so cool. I'm so glad we got to hear from Ike, guys. That's so nice. I have to say, like it was only about 3 weeks ago. I was like, we have not heard from Ike in a while, and I was concerned, So, yeah, that was a, and he does have a Richard Painter-esque style. That is certainly true. All right, buddy, let me tell you something. If someone's from a good area code, they want to treat them like kids till they're 40. Okay. The Ninja Foodie is only 3. Look at that. JG likes it. All right, cool. Ninja has an Instant Pot knockoff. I'll have to see one. I love my IP. Look at that. We talk about the prison industrial complex, but to me it's become the new Jim Crow. Keep the riffraff away from the good people is the MO behind it. It's certainly a class thing now. Jim Crow was, specifically racially aimed. There's a big move in the suburban red state white community to get rid of their garbage cousins. And that's, they count on jail to do that, so they don't have to think about it anymore. And if they can't do that, they hope that, it's sad, but, if he just OD'd, it would just, he'd be, his suffering would be over, that kind of stuff. Oh, Ike the Rainer. There you go, Ike. Ninja Foodie in Walmart for $1.80. Worry about Ike, but I worry more about RBG. Please put her in bubble wrap. Yeah, really. Decriminalize drug and release nonviolent drug offenders and provide treatment for them if they want it. And don't use the phrase bring them to heal. I don't know that I ever have, but yeah. How have you read the prison reform bill? I have not. I've been following some of the news stories around it, but I haven't read the text of the bill.
15 seconds.
Okay, great. Thank you. We should not have private prisons, period. I'll tell you a private prison story in a minute during the next hour break. Oh, good, Foreign Clear. It's nice that you, this is your first you've heard of Ike. We love Ike. He's been a friend of the show for a long time.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, so too, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back to the show. So cheese. Let's talk about this a little bit. So, a much comedic hay was made in the last, 15 hours or so, I suppose, about the fact that the House Republicans called an emergency meeting during the negotiations about the shutdown. During the time prior to the shutdown, they called this meeting in the middle of all the negotiations and the back and forth with all these stories about how the Republicans are running up to the White House and back and forth, and they're talking to Democratic lawmakers about trying to get them on board, and all this stuff is happening. And in the middle of this, there's this emergency meeting of the Rules Committee on a resolution to pass, to provide for the consideration of Senate Bill 2322 with an hour of general debate to get it out of the House and voted on before the shutdown, knowing full well that if it doesn't go in before the shutdown, it'll never hit the floor by the time the congressional session ends, and certainly will never hit the floor if the Dems are in control of things. And what this was, it's on the Senate Committee on, it came from the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Ron Johnson from Wisconsin floated this. No surprise, it's about cheese. And they were trying to get it in through the Congress and passed. It failed in the House. There was a vote in the Senate, and it got through. Thank you, Joe. And I enjoy your Neo picture. And so this act may be cited as, quote, the Codifying Useful Regulatory Definitions Act, or the CURD Act, as in curds and whey. Get it? Okay. So, now, here's the thing. The joke was this is about cheese, and what a ridiculous thing that the Republicans want to pass a bill or try to get a debate going about a bill and call an emergency meeting to get this bill through, right? This is what an absurdity, and how ridiculous is the Republicans' governing philosophy that they, in the middle of these talks about the government shutting down with no end in sight, they're going to stop business for an hour in the middle of this negotiation when the shutdown of the government is 2 hours away to discuss in the Rules Committee, which is where they would, by the way, have to be doing all this discussion about the government shutdown and how they would avert certain sections of the government. What you would do in the Rules Committee in this particular situation is you would go, okay, how do we make sure that this section of the government is now covered by a budgetary aspect that won't shut down, right? So one of the ways you mitigate and you shorten a shutdown or you lessen the impact of it is you go, okay, we're going to temporarily vote to put this organization in the government under the financial purview temporarily for 30 days of another department that isn't going to be shut down, that kind of stuff. You can do those kind of things. But were they doing that? No. They were trying to get the CURD Act through, the Codifying Useful Regulatory Definitions Act, the Cheese Act, that came out of Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. So what does it do? Well, first of all, it's not a cheese bill. It's a bill for chemicals. It's a chemical bill. So understand this. The Republicans did not stop the government temporarily in the middle of important business to discuss the sale of cheese in the country. What they did was try to stop the government for an hour while the negotiations were going on, but prior to a shutdown, to push through a piece of legislation that redefines what the word natural means in terms of the sale of cheese in the United States. Now, the volume of cheese that is sold in the United States and that comes from the United States and goes worldwide is nearly immeasurable. It is an incredible amount of money. It is an incredible amount of product. And what this bill sought to do was allow for cheese products that start out as mostly cheese, or start out as cheese, I guess, and then become mostly cheese, and then become barely cheese, and then become not at all cheese. Oh, sorry, I keep hitting the laptop. That's what you're hearing, guys. Sorry, that's my bad. I keep tapping it with my hand when I'm getting excited. That's what it is. So in this bill, it allows for it defines and then redefines what milk is, and defines and redefines what cheese is. That's the whole point. Is so that when you talk about, like, we've all Christmas long, you're going to see everywhere products that say chocolatey on them. Anything you see that says chocolatey means it contains no chocolate. And legally, they cannot say it's chocolate something because there's no chocolate in it. So what they tell you is chocolatey. They've come up with an artificial flavoring that vaguely tastes like chocolate. They manipulate it in such a way that it gives you the illusion that you're eating something of chocolate that contains no cocoa, no chocolate at all, right? And it's a sales trick. If it says chocolatey, it's not chocolate. And so when they say processed cheese food, what they mean is it has the texture, or something's cheesy. That's another thing. But if they say it's cheese food, it means it started out as the concept of cheese, and then eventually there's like 1% of what they call cheese in it, and the rest of it is all chemical. And so this bill is to redefine what you can call natural so they can hide that from you when you go to the store. Now remember, the Republicans have always been against labeling on food. They always push back on this. They don't want calorie counts on stuff. They don't want, as they represent a version of the industry, of corporate interests that are all about hiding the downside of this so they can maximize profits, even at the effect of, quite frankly, poisoning people. There are other corporations, decent ones, that work very hard to keep their products honest and natural. And when they say it, they mean it. And those guys file a lot of lawsuits, which is what the chocolate industry did against companies, like when Hershey's has chocolate product that they've started moving away from getting chocolate out of their stuff almost entirely. They're getting sued by companies like Godiva for calling stuff chocolate when it's not chocolate anymore. So the cheese world also has that. There are dairy farmers and cheese suppliers that make real cheese and sell real cheese and do, try to do their level best to keep that process as pure as possible. And they sell their stuff as natural because that separates them from the companies that throw in all kinds of horrible stuff to preserve or extend or cut the cheese. They are not supportive of companies that want to cut the cheese. I'm just saying it. I'm just going to go out and say it. But this bill is not about cheese. This bill is about a Republican standard that companies should be able to lie to you about the food that you are putting in your body, and they know this bill will not go through once the Dems get in office. So yes, it does matter who's in charge. And yes, there is a difference between the parties. And specifically, the Democrats aren't letting this go through. That's why an emergency meeting. That's why they tried to get this vote through at the last minute. And why, by the way, they may still try next week in these special sessions to get this bill through because they know the Dems won't pass it. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. I tried not to say it. I tried not to say cut the cheese. So, we'll get more callers. I think we got a couple more, Lady B. We'll get them when we come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the top of the hour.
Steve and Carl.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Got a curd stuck in your throat? That's right. Roundup should be outlawed. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Roundup has an incredibly long reach as far as where it shows up in food. Brad, I'm in Kentucky, actually. Visiting family for the holidays. Oh, it's curd. Yeah, Dems have been better than thugs for quite a while. It's just there always seems to be just enough Dems willing to get the party as a whole a bad name on some issues. No, I think it's because there are just enough Dems where people tarnish the entire party with a couple of those. I did that story last week. We were talking about how the friggin' QAF. Thanks for showing that. I will reference that when we come back. Thanks for the heads up. That's nice. David Hogg just got accepted to Harvard. How did you cut the cheese? I thought that was Johnny Million's job. I would never. The Kurds will get whacked if we pull out of Syria. Precisely, which is why McGurk, I guess, is stepping down as well. We'll have to see. Hold on, where? Oh, shut up. Yipe. Oh, wow. Thanks so much. Thank you, Sandra. All Kurds matter. Happy solstice, everyone. Yes. Don't forget to stand your broom. Lazy ass farmers don't want to pull weeds, just poisonous. I don't think it's them. I think it's there aren't farmers. It's big companies. It's, I'm concerned about growth hormone and overuse of antibiotics on cows to make the cheese. Yeah, the antibiotic part, and that's the difference between natural and unnatural too, is that they keep wanting to, limit what companies can say, like about, grass-fed versus pasture-raised versus free-range, those kind of words. They want to water down the meaning of those. I don't know what that was. All right. They want to water down the meaning of those words so that they mean next to nothing. Oh, thanks, Amos. Wow. Happy holiday to the Sparks family and the HSRPM. Thank you, too. Merry Christmas to everybody, by the way. Thank you guys so much. It's definitely a weird one, this holiday season. And it's going to be, this week's obviously going to be really news heavy. Cheese. I certainly limit my my cheese intake, preferring, I do enjoy drunken.
20 seconds.
I do enjoy drunken goat cheese. If you guys have ever tried that, the cheese eaters that are listening, yeah. Hike the Rainer is so broke. Oh, sorry, Hike. Come on, where's the sound effect? Oh, I don't. Darn tootin', I don't have the the same sound effect fart box.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
Well, I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
So, Trump tweets out yesterday, I've done more damage to ISIS than all recent presidents. Not even close. I guess you have to use the word recent since ISIS is recent, but I don't know that Abraham Lincoln did nothing against ISIS. I'm just saying, I did way better. So Trump is claiming that he's done more in dealing with ISIS than any president, and that's why we can afford to leave Syria. Now, we have more of a guidance role and an air support role in Syria anyways than troops on the ground. But one of the things that kind of stood out in his clamoring about this, hold on, there's clearly a moment where his decision to pull out of Syria caught a lot of people off guard, not the least of which, did Mad Dog / Moderate Mattis, which is, by the way, what Trump has been nicknaming him. I don't know if you guys had heard that. But Mad Dog Mattis, Trump had been calling him Moderate Mattis lately because he didn't want, because he was mitigating Trump's Looney Tunes ideas of what we should do in foreign policy. Now, let's be abundantly clear. We're not leaving Syria because of mission accomplished. We're not leaving Syria because ISIS is smashed. We're not leaving Syria because, Trump made a promise that he was going to get us less involved in wars and policing the rest of the world. We are leaving Syria because Russia wants us out of Syria. Period. End of story. The big winner of us leaving Syria is Putin and Bashar al-Assad. And apparently ISIS as well. So according to the Washington Post, the Turkish president, Erdogan, he was speaking on the phone. He repeated his inability to understand why the United States was still arming and supporting Syrian Kurdish fighters to conduct a ground war against the Islamic State to Turkey, which shared a 500-mile-long border with Syria. They were a national security threat allied with Turkish Kurds, which is why we were supporting them, so they don't get bulldozed. And even the United States considered them terrorists. This is not true. But this is the argument that he made to Trump. The Islamic State, according to Trump himself, had been defeated. Erdogan said, parroting back words to Trump that Trump had made up out of whole cloth. Like, you even said yourself they're all wiped out, so what's the big deal? And he's like, you're right, I did say that. Did I say that? I said that. I must have said that because it sounds good. So why did some 2,000 U.S. troops still need to be there? And Trump said at the end of the call, you know what? It's yours. I'm leaving. That was the end of the conversation. That literally, you know what? It's yours. I'm leaving. Oh my God. This is the height of language in a negotiation about a war zone. You know what? It's yours. I'm leaving. The call, shorthanded in more or less the same words by several senior administration officials, set off events that even by the whirlwind standards of Washington in the Trump years had been cataclysmic. They ended, for the moment at least, with Thursday's resignation of Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. This account of the tumultuous past week is drawn from interviews with government officials in the White House and across national security departments, all of whom spoke on the condition of anonymity while the dust was still settling. The White House and the Turkish embassy did not respond to requests for comment. For those who cared to defend the decision, including some on Trump's staff, Stephen Miller, a minority of lawmakers and presumably a good portion of his unshakable supporters across the country, it was a promise kept. Trump long said he was going to reduce commitments overseas. Money, he said, was spent on protecting the homeland, not in some faraway place that didn't affect the United States. Okay. First, for Trump, it was an assertion of presidential prerogative that he had repeatedly been constrained from exercising. It came at a time when he was feeling loss of control over a range of issues, including the special counsel investigation. So this is, when Mattis apparently gets wind of this, the story is crazy. In the days after the Friday call to Erdogan, Trump's senior national security team tried and failed to get him to reconsider, saying it was the worst possible moment for such an abrupt action. On Wednesday evening, in the Oval Office with aides, Trump complained that Mattis and others were still trying to dissuade him from the withdrawal. Syria, he railed, costs, quote, a fortune. And for what? What are we getting out of this? Like, his bizarre knee-jerk need for everything to be transactional and financial, and because he created such a huge budget deficit, now every dime, this is why we're selling arms to Saudi Arabia, and why he's bragging about it, because this is his only walk back from being able to, from basically, he's selling arms to cover the deficit hole. That's what he thinks he's doing. So everything is a freak out about that. So, he had given Mattis and, quote, all the other fellas months to provide him with solutions on Syria, and none had given him any. Now, the reason they hadn't given him any is because it's slow prodding progress. But never mind that. Top White House aide Stephen Miller, one of Trump's most hardline advisors, and I think one of three who sleeps upside down clinging from the roof, had long told the president that his own defense secretary, quote, did not support his America First agenda. For Mattis, Miller was right if America First meant doing things that were uninformed by history or respect for what he considered the foundational building blocks of U.S. national security. The Syria decision, he believed, along with Trump's order to prepare for troop withdrawals from Afghanistan, was the epitome of the president's careless way of operating. On Thursday afternoon, before keeping previously scheduled appointment with Trump, Mattis sat in his Pentagon office and watched a video lasting 1 minute and 19 seconds that the president had posted himself on Twitter the night before. We have won against ISIS. I'll play that for you in a second. The Islamic State, he said, we've beaten them badly, and now it's time for our troops to come home. Having to call families of military casualties was heartbreaking, no question about it, Trump said. There was nobody happier about his decision than pointing up to the sky, to meaning dead soldiers. At 3:30, Mattis departed from the building for the brief ride to the White House, his resignation letter in hand. It had been written for a long time, at least in his head, a fill-in-the-blank missive about his broad differences with Trump, in which Syria had finally filled the empty space. Before he left, he'd ordered copies of the letter to be made for distribution to senior staff and the media. It wasn't just Syria, a senior Pentagon official said, but a series of decisions. If there was some big strategic benefit to abandoning the Kurds and doing this, then maybe there would have been a different answer. But this was seemingly very arbitrary. Okay, it was not arbitrary. It was only arbitrary in the sense that it served a mission outside the mission that the United States benefits from, namely what Russia wants. This back channel talk that was set up between Trump and Putin, all this conversation about them trying, quote unquote, trying to set up a back channel thing during the campaign. Understand that there's successful communication under the table between him and Putin now. Not to mention the little private meetings they have, but that these little side meetings that they have. I'm doing it again. I'm hitting my laptop. I'm sorry, making I keep getting excited and I'm chopping my laptop in half. But this is what Putin wanted. Putin wants us out of Syria so he can have it. He and Iran can grow in their control of the region. That's why he wants us out. Trump is ignorant enough not to understand that that's part of what's happening and thinks this is just a financial transaction between him and Putin. And that Putin won't pull the rug out from under him if he keeps doing what he's told. And amongst the thing that he's been told is get out of Syria. The other is shut down your government. The other is I need chaos. I need wild man politics over there. And you're going to do it. And that's how it's played out. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take some more calls. 773-763-9278. Look at the map of Syria. Why wouldn't Russia want it? Exactly, Julie. This is when we come back. This was a crazy thing too about MBS. Hey Zelda, welcome. Trump is putting so many lives at risk. He's just going to get them slaughtered. Period. is Trump freaked out about the Fed rate climb because it will cause people to default and will accelerate economic issues? No, I think he's freaked out because traditionally it makes the stock market go down because people start moving their money into into the bond market, which is, by the way, the bond market was on a worse slope, the kind that points to a depression. And so that's one of the reasons why they are going to continue to raise rates, even through this, by the way, to reinstigate, to keep the bond market up. Is Trump actually the antichrist? Yeah, he's not the antichrist, but he's like a he's a booster. Always goes back to geography, no question. So yeah, so I don't think he thinks that deeply. In answer to your question, Edward, I think he's simply looking at he thinks the stock market is simply going down only because the Fed is raising rates or is threatening to raise rates, and since he has tagged so much of his presidency onto whether or not how the stock
10 seconds.
Okay, thank you. How the stock market is doing, he's freaking out. That's it. Yeah, they're overlapping, Sam. That's right.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So one of the issues with Iraq and Afghanistan and the financial situation going on in Syria and why Trump has had why he made part of this knee-jerk reaction and why it was so frustrating to him in some ways was apparently in a telephone call to MBS, the Saudi king Salman. Trump asked him to cough up stabilization money. And this is the quote from the paper. Some had their doubts that the president had accurately heard Salman, who he said had promised $4 billion in stabilization funds. Trump was assuaged for the moment, although the money didn't materialize. So Trump was talking to him, thought MBS had said he's going to send $4 billion to help stabilize Syria. And that money never showed up because Trump never heard that. That was just somewhere between Diet Coke and Adderall. That thought wedged in his brain, and he basically had an auditory hallucination. His ire rose again in January when then Secretary of State Rex Tillerson gave a speech outlining a long-term U.S. presidency here, along with more than $200 million in U.S. stabilization funding. In April, Trump raised Syria issue again, canceling the $200 million and sowing the seeds of the final break with Mattis. It began at a Make America Great rally in Ohio. "We're knocking the hell out of ISIS," Trump told a cheering crowd, veering unexpectedly into foreign policy in a speech that was supposed to be about infrastructure. Hello. "We'll be coming out of Syria like very soon. Let the other people take care of it now." The president was still riffing on stage when the frantic calls from the White House Situation Room began pouring into aides traveling with the president. Mattis and the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, scrambled to understand what the president was talking about. While the Islamic State had been greatly weakened, Kurdish partner forces had a way to go before they could secure eastern Syria and ensure militants didn't return. After this bombshell, Trump walked off stage in Ohio, took a swig of Diet Coke. Smiling broadly, he, quote, "knew that people were freaking out," unquote, said one person familiar with the incident. An aide asked him how quickly he wanted the troops gone from Syria, and Trump suggested that they should leave in about a week. Back in Washington, Mattis and other top aides again sought to defer a decision. What the president wanted and the reality of the situation were so different that you couldn't merge the two and get it to work. This has been going on for the better part of a year. So let's take another caller, Lady B. Who do we have?
We have Carl from Nashville.
Oh, right on. Look at that. Everybody's in for the holidays. Hey, Carl. Welcome to the show.
You can turn right in there.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. Did you get your order?
Call me in the middle of business.
That's all right. I'm glad you got business to do. Obviously, you don't work for the government right now.
No. No, I have a metal recycling center here, and I tell you all the time, my business is recession proof because people always need to throw away their old junk to make room for their new junk.
And that well said. So go ahead.
Exactly. But yeah, man, is as far as, and this is something that no one is really mentioning, they're getting into depth in what's going on, why they think Donald Trump is doing what he's doing in Syria. I'm in agreement with you. Mm-hmm. I believe that it's some type of payment to Russia why he's doing this. But no one has really been mentioning the reaction, and the reaction to me is mind blowing. So everyone has given General Mattis kudos for finally standing up. He doesn't get a damn thing from me, you coward.
Right, just like Kelly.
He sat back. I mean, they sat back. The Republican Party has sat back and watched Donald Trump say some of the most racist, nastiest, vile, and foul things, and they stood by him, or either they was quiet. Now all of a sudden, this damn outrage, this outrage that they get because he's leaving for Syria, and they're really on him. They ought to let you know. Wait a minute. Why are these people so outraged about this? But
But the other stuff is fine.
And saving treasure.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, they're okay with it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty consistent though. That like a lot of these guys, they'll go along and get along with the idea that, and this is giving him a tremendous amount of credit, is that the Mattises of the world, in theory, look at the issues of war and fighting and terrorism and stuff at such a serious level that everything else can skate. And that's their job to some degree. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So they don't, if it's not a nail, I don't care. So if he wants to spout, racist stuff, or he wants to keep transgender people out of the military, I don't care, because as long as we're bombing the right people, they don't care. And I understand it. There's compartmentalized people in the world that do a very compartmentalized job. You know what I mean? You can't expect them to, be the moral compass of something else when their whole job is blowing up people who might blow up other people that matter to us. And so I get that to some extent, but that's not Mattis. Mattis was on board 100% with the transgender ban, for example. Like he had room in his skull for some of these things that you're talking about, and I feel like he gives, in those moments, he gives certain military leaders a bad name, because there are those people who are like, look, that's not my that's different from my pay grade. It's not above or below. It's just different. I don't get involved in the politics of that. I have a mission and I carry out the mission. That's true when you're General Mattis. When you're Secretary Mattis, then you have the whole overview. And that's why go ahead.
And when Steve Mnuchin, you remember how he looked like he was gonna throw up in his mouth when those people were marching down to Virginia talking about Jews were not replace us and all that stuff, and he just, people thought that he was gonna resign.
No.
On principle behind, but they didn't. I'm like, dude, how could you stay there with an administration that the head says that they will find people on both sides, and these people were marching against your religion, and you stayed there. So to me, Jared Kushner, those guys stayed there behind that. So that lets me know that the outrage that's going on with this is, to me, it was kind of jarring to see the Republican Party, with all due respect, grow a pair and stand up to him. And then another frightening thing was the media. The media looked like they transformed back to 2001, 2, and 3, and they were parroting Republicans with that bull crap that we got to go there so they don't come here.
Right.
I actually started seeing media parroting that all over again. I'm like, my God, is this deja vu?
That was Lindsey Graham's statement about this. And understand this. Like, I don't have a problem with us leaving Syria in overall as a policy.
Right.
I do have a problem with that policy being slapdash and used as a way to cover, create news cycle ground fire so that he can escape from the fact that Cohen and Flynn both went down last week, and Flynn was granted a break so that he could go basically talk to the feds more, because they looked at the redacted document. They went, yeah, he gave up everybody laterally, but he's not giving up people up the chain. So how about you take 90 days and think about this? Because even though they like the people you're handing laterally, and even though those people that you're handing to them laterally are giving us Trump, we want Trump from you, buddy. And so you better go think about this, or you're going to get 8 years. And that's basically what the judge said. And
that's what that judge did.
That's exactly what the judge did.
I don't know if you know that now, but that's the judge that made the plane turn around in midair when
fly the girl back. Yes.
Some people, the
DACA girl.
Not to be played with.
Or the girl who was separated from her family, and they were this guy doesn't play, and he's also aware of this stuff, and he I loved how all the attorneys that they interviewed were like, he's a wild card. You never know what he's going to do. I'm like, you mean he actually listens to the case in front of him is what you mean. He's unpredictable because the details of each case are different. So the guy, that's what you want from a judge. You don't want somebody who's a rubber stamp. And he isn't. He listens and pays attention. Now, I personally, and I don't have any evidence of this, but I personally believe that he is either because he's been spoken to in a way by the city attorneys, or the special counsel's attorneys, or because he can read the writing on the wall, or he looked at the redacted documents and drew his own inference from it, that he knew very well that the reason Mueller wanted this sentencing thing early was to put the fear of God in Flynn and make him start talking about the final stuff that he knows. And if they'd have just waited,
like it was a coordinated thing.
Totally, it felt coordinated to me. I have no, like I said, I have no evidence that this is the case or whatever. But on an emotional level, like that's what it felt like that.
I'm so I listened to your monologue earlier, and I'm very glad that you're re-reminding people, because for whatever reason we tend to have short memories in America.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're reminding people how Republicans, how they trash everything, the debt and the deficit, and then they lay it at the feet of the Democrats. Isn't it fun to finally see stuff blow up in their face? Because if you stop and think about it, they have no interest whatsoever in governing. They have a few agendas. They want to raise lower taxes for millionaires and billionaires, and raise taxes for middle class people. But it's really refreshing to finally see, because I've been sitting back just like you and watching them do this for cycle
time and time again.
Democrats out of power. Democrats out of power, then they mess up everything, run up the debt and the deficit, and then they lay trash at the feet of
these guys. Vomit all over the place. These guys vomit all over the place, and then blame the guy with the mop for the mess. And just look at the Obama years, just the food stamps, story they keep telling over and over again. Like, you guys are responsible for why people ended up on food stamps. You are responsible for the rise in homelessness. He was cleaning up the mess. Putting those people on food stamps kept them from starving to death in the United States of America. Like, that part of it. And the number of progressives and Democrats who let them get away with that is, don't get me started. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna roil on that. That language, that talk about him, the Bill Press of the world, not on my watch. The Obama took the stock market from 6,400 to 19K. We had an 11% unemployment rate that was jacking up all the time, and he brought it down within normal ranges before he left. With the Republicans running interference the entire way, We owe Obama an apology, frankly. Thanks for the call. We're way over a minute into the break or whatever, but it was great to hear from you. Appreciate it, Carl. Always. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. IQ's dropping and politics zeitgeist is becoming unstable and volatile. Coincidence? Yeah, I don't know that the IQ. I think ultimately, I don't know that the IQs are dropping. I think education has been undermined for a very long time, and we're reaping that. I don't think it's biochemical. I don't think we're looking at fluoride in the water problem. Nothing is what it appears to be. That includes the Unite the Right. Don't be fooled. What? Fooled by what? People were marching in khakis saying Jews will not replace us. That's exactly what you think it is. When you look at main Unite the Right organizers, aka understand the false narrative that Unite the Right. Yeah, no. Nice try, though. I built a school in Chinatown, Chicago, back in 1995. The public school put in huge burners and woks in their kitchen to make good meals for their kids. They care about what their children ate. Mm-hmm. They do in the United States, not so much over in actual China. Are people giving out hugs? Can I sign up? Yes. Big hug for everybody. Bring in Zelda. We're hugging over here, yelling treason. And how did Obama achieve the financial grounds of the Federal Reserve papered over the crisis? No, it didn't. They didn't overprint money in that term. So who's Jason Kessler? Open your mind. Is that right? It's not a right. People can have their opinions. We can disagree. So far, so good. Yeah, that's fine. You just ignore it if it's not a conversation you want to have. Totally fine. Let's see. Trump has shuttered 2 deals that have resulted in government shutdown, both because of his knee-jerk reaction to far-right radio. He really had a better deal, but backed out of it over DACA. Absolutely, we talked about that earlier. The he could have gotten $20 billion. Education is very important to me. My kid would be put in the back of a room, and he's autistic. If it weren't for me making him go to school. Yeah, well, nothing is, education and kids being able to learn how to learn is crucial. Okay. Spartica is done. Remove. And yeah, I heard that. That's why we dumped him. One problem with food stamps, slave master mentality for I pay for your food, possible solution, universal eligibility. Yeah, that's
20 seconds.
I don't know that there's a slave master mentality from food stamps. I think that's a false narrative. It's going to homeschool. Food stamps benefit the food corporations. Food stamps benefit people who don't have food, too. I was on assistance when I was a kid. Pretty easy to show improvement in the economy when the Federal Reserve was pumping $20 billion a month.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the Mega Worldwide Radio program with Hal Sparks.
Welcome back. So we're going to take another call in a second, but apparently Brett McGurk, the top U.S. envoy in the fight against ISIS, has for the global coalition to defeat ISIS, has resigned. Sources tell CBS he informed the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo that he will accelerate his departure due to a strong disagreement with Trump's snap decision to withdraw 2,000 U.S. troops from Syria, effectively abandoning U.S. allies in the region. McGurk is submitting his resignation on Friday, just one day after Defense Secretary James Mattis quit his post, citing fundamental disagreements with the commander-in-chief, including one over the importance of honoring U.S. alliances. The special envoy was publicly left in the lurch by the president's sudden declaration on Wednesday that he was pulling U.S. forces out of Syria against the advice of his top national security advisors and without consulting U.S. allies. That coordinating with people who actually have a shared goal in any kind of battle against terrorism or war theater. Simply doing that is part of the statesmanship and the gravitas and the importance of actually honoring the office of being president of the United States. If you're just kind of like, let them eat cake and chucking a turkey leg that you're half done with at someone, you're not being president. You're being, and he hasn't been. He's running the country like he ran the Trump organization, and the Trump organization itself had 6 bankruptcies and never ran on profit a single day in its existence. Ever notice how people with crazy theories can't spell or use punctuation? Yes. Well, they're typing very fast. Rats from a sinking ship, according to our chat room. Businesses, let's see. Actually, we have a caller on the line. So let me, before I start reading into the chat room in context, piece by piece, let's take another caller, because I think we've got somebody, Lady B, is that right?
Yes, we do. We have Steve.
Steve from the Gold Coast, right on. It's old home week.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey, welcome.
Exactly. Well, I just wanted to sort of wrap things up in that, I think you've got this sort of multidimensional downfall of Donald Trump finally. And, so on the foreign policy front, obviously, he seems to have this amnesia issue with regard to the campaign in 2016. This was a core of the critique of the Obama administration and by association, Hillary Clinton, the notion that, we prematurely withdrew from Iraq and created the ISIS phenomenon. So for God's sakes, people are yelling in his ear, do you not remember this? We are going to get labeled with exactly the same thing that we accused others of.
Right.
So, what in God's name are you doing? Now, on top of that, you've got the Mueller investigation coming to a head. You've got an economy that's falling off a cliff. For people who don't know it, despite the fact that you have low unemployment, real wages have declined by 0.3% this year for average Americans.
Yeah, beyond even being stagnant, which they'd had a problem with stagnant wages for a long time. They've actually decreased.
Exactly. And then so despite the fact that you may have had people with money in the stock market or at the top, well, now those people are feeling it as well. And so, and now you've got this tremendous cancer that is Donald Trump, because, the reason for, the blue wave that we just experienced was Donald Trump. People literally showed up to vote for people in various positions of government because Donald Trump was president, not because they particularly loved the Democratic candidate. It was because Donald Trump is the head of the other guy's party. So, there's a point now at which, there's no love lost between Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. I mean, they may put on a good public face every now and then, but these people hate each other.
Right.
And for good reason. This is not the guy that the Republicans
Mitch
want.
McConnell and Putin have more in common than almost anybody, because they both look at Trump as a useful idiot. As long as he's doing what they need, he's got a purpose. Anything past that, done. Right.
Exactly. And so now we're coming to a point where, his own party is, because we're getting ready to, into 2019, we're going to be jockeying for position in terms of, okay, who's considering running, who's going to be running, on the Democratic and Republican side. And I say Republican because Donald Trump is almost certainly going to be primary. Mm-hmm. Somebody, Kasich or otherwise, are going to challenge him for his own party's nomination, which is almost unheard of. It happens once every 40, 50 years in this country in a major party. So, that's how bad of a president you need to be. Mm-hmm. So, people are already starting to jockey for position. So you're not going to see the kind of unqualified support for everything that Donald Trump wants, coming out of the White House on the part of Republicans, because they're going to have to align themselves with who they think might actually secure the nomination, not just line up behind Donald Trump. So there's all of these things that are coming to a head. And so it's going to be, I think, death by 1,000 cuts for Donald Trump, any one of which could be the fatal one, because it's hard to tell, which one will be. But again, this is the beginning of the end. I mean, it's something all of us knew would happen back in 2016. But to be the president of the United States in this day and age and not be able to find a qualified human being in Washington who wants to be your chief of staff. For people who don't know it, this is one of the most coveted jobs in the world. It's the person who actually runs the White House in the country,
right?
Effectively. And
he's the bottleneck of authority in the country, right?
Right. If you're a chief of staff for a week in America, you wrote your own ticket for the rest of your life. You're going to get to sit on boards. You get to be you get to adjunct position at the most elite universities. You write a book. It's going to sell out. It's a great position. Nobody wants to be this man's chief of staff. Just tell us something about this administration. How many people need to leave or are fired,
and
or however else they
leave a disgrace
to turn around and say, this White House is chaotic. It's run by a madman. Nobody leaves this White House on good terms saying, wow, Donald Trump was a great guy. I had a great experience, and he's a great president.
The only people who walk out of the White House saying good things about Donald Trump are people who are as legally culpable in crimes as he is and are afraid that he will, or his ilk will roll on them before they get a chance to roll on him. Everybody else who's just left of their own accord, does nothing but crap talk him after they left, after he spouted off how great they were from, starting with Mattis, but going all the way back to Papadopoulos and Carter Page, people that he was like patting himself on the back for putting in positions, and then ultimately ended up either rolling on him or pulling a Tillerson. One of the craziest things, of the last kind of 24 hours is watching, like you said, the Republicans kind of do this loop where they're pretending to like him over one issue while totally vilifying him. Lindsey Graham is probably the best example of this, where he's like supportive of the shutdown over the wall because he knows it's politically advantageous to himself as well, because he can't not support it. And yet at the same time, basically calling the president insane for his whiplash Syria decision.
Oh, and there's one other point, related to that, and that is, Trump's got to be going insane because on the one hand, he indicated earlier in the week that he's open to the idea of some sort of compromise so that we could keep the government open. But wait. The moment that Fox and Friends, Rush Limbaugh, and others speak up against this, saying, oh, my God, he's abandoning us, this was his core issue, all of a sudden Trump decides, no, I am not open to compromise, telling the world that essentially the Fox and Friends and Rush Limbaugh are the people governing this country, not the White House, because they're the ones making policy. So now he's got to deal with the fact that the world thinks that, Rush Limbaugh is actually the president, not Donald Trump, because that's who's making the decisions.
Yeah, there's always been somebody, Trump has a choke chain, and a lot of people. One of the biggest benefits of Trump as a president for a lot of the people who do support him is, and why they let him get away with, kind of deals with what Carl and I were talking about on a more macro level, is that there are lots of people in the Midwest and throughout Michigan and Wisconsin, places like that, who voted for Trump and who still support him on a certain level because of his stance on illegal immigration, because no matter how horribly he treats people, in the same way that as long as my pit bull bites the right people, I don't care if he occasionally bites the wrong people. These are people who are living from such a point of fear and disgust and derision at others that when they look at Donald Trump and he does stuff that they're embarrassed by, especially against women, they let it slide because they are benefiting from his more horrifying, racial policies. So he's keeping the big bad MS-13 out, which is, by the way, why this is his fallback argument as well. This is, the next 72 hours are going to be crazy. Like Trump will continue to tweet this nonsense. He's going to be aggravated he can't go to Mar-a-Lago. He will more than likely leave on Christmas Eve before this is all fixed to go to Mar-a-Lago if they haven't reached some sort of deal to just go, look, we're going to push this through because we got in a veto-proof majority, which, by the way, could more than likely happen at this point. There is absolutely, if they'd have gone back to the other bill, and this is Paul Ryan not bringing it to the floor. Paul Ryan knows that they bring the bill that the Senate had done without any of the changes to the floor, it will pass with a veto-proof majority. So this is going to be fascinating. We got to take a break. I appreciate the call. One more thing.
I can make one last point.
Sure.
The only out they have now is that you and I are crazy, and because, Trump is a lot smarter than we are, and because according to Q, this is all part of his long game.
Oh yeah,
These
sure.
are the only crazy people that are still left who are going to support Trump.
That's right, and it was a fake Obama who was delivering Christmas presents, because the truth is Trump arrested Clinton and the Obama's entire families at the Bush funeral 2 weeks ago. Oh my God.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Be well. Have a great holiday. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for calling in, and thanks for being a part of the show off and on over the year especially. So have a great New Year's. We'll talk to you next time. Okay, we got to take a break. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, AM 820. Go to Chicago's progressivetalk.com, or I think WCPT AM 820 is our .com is the website. And you can hear all your favorite progressive voices on there. We'll be back right after this. Did you guys see the Jill Stein Russia story? Oh, by the way, he said Trump would win again. I almost think that called it. Yeah, pretty much. We'll only block on nothing wrong with my voting machine, and he's gone. Democracy wins again. Right. I will leave that up to you guys, though. He said sometimes, I think one of the other areas is spamming with a bunch of text, and obviously stuff that won't be addressed is kind of a gish gallop, is reason to get bumped as well. Has anyone kept a tally of how many tax dollars we've spent on Trump going to his resorts over the past few years? Yes, they have. Trump. Oh. Is this the same one I just watched? Or... Oh, yeah, they're talking about the same one I played. Okay, good. The Trump expects us acting.
We have like 40 seconds, and we have 2 more callers.
Okay, great. All right, well, yeah. Good Lord. Nuts.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Professor Peter Conti Brown of the Wharton School, is saying there will be market chaos if Trump fires the Fed chairman James Powell and replaces him with Jared Kushner. The idea being that he would float the idea that there would be he can't get rid of Powell as the FOMC chair. He can't knock him out, but he could appoint somebody as president to so there'd be 2 Fed chairs at the same time concurrently, which is totally abnormal and weird and stupid and would cause market chaos. And but that hasn't stopped Trump from doing stupid stuff like that before. But oh my God! So we have 2 other callers. Let's take them though. Who do we have first, Lady B?
We have Wayne.
Cool. Hey, Wayne, welcome.
Hey, how y'all doing? Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. You too. Go ahead.
Yeah, Hal. I have a slightly different take on yours.
Okay.
I think that Trump did the right thing by taking the troops out of Syria, or he's getting ready to. Except for one thing, he needs to leave a force there to protect the Kurds from Erdogan, who wants to slaughter them.
Right.
Otherwise, we really don't have any business being there. There's only two reasons to be in a sovereign country: United Nations resolution, or the country invites you.
Right.
We were not invited by Syria, and there was no United Nations resolution.
Well, the difference is there is a situation under this one. There was a declared civil war, and in declared civil war, other nations can protect the governmental side that they support. It would be the same kind of thing had we gone into Rwanda, for example. You don't need the government's permission to stop them from slaughtering their people in those circumstances, and that's why we were in Syria in that regard.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. First of all, we're there illegally in the first place, and this narrative about Assad massacring his own people—that's just a premise for invasion. Like, for instance, the so-called gassing of his own people. All that's been proven to be false. It was the white helmets who were doing it, and the jihadists trying to blame Assad for gassing his own people. So the countries like the United States, Britain, France will come in and bomb Syria. That was a lie about Assad bombing his own people.
Understood.
So,
understood. I'm not justifying. I'm just citing the law that we're talking about that allows for you to go in that circumstance. You don't have to, false flags being what they are. You don't have, if you don't know something's a false flag and you react in a way that you believe is humanitarian, that doesn't make you complicit in the false flag itself. That's if it is indeed a false flag. That's not the point I'm making. Point I'm making is we absolutely do exercise that right, and there were other countries meddling in there that were part of the UN Security Council as well. So mitigating that loss and supporting other border countries, for example, Israel, has been a policy of ours for a very long time. So and I'm no fan of us unsettling the more secular leaders, especially in the Middle East. That's always been a concern of mine specifically. But I'm just saying that calling it blanketly illegal is just materially not true. It can work out that way over time, but it's not the exact same thing. That being said, I believe you're making the same argument that I was, that we do need to get out of there, but in a way that protects the Kurds from being slaughtered by the Turks in that area. Well, there is no one without the other in that regard, and it certainly isn't the version where you tweet about it and you don't tell your Secretary of Defense. You know what I mean? That's the issue here. This is slapdash military policy used to cover the fact that he is worried about being indicted for crimes. This is not strategy. This is not policy, and this is certainly not a promise kept about those kind of, where we shouldn't be involved in wars overseas. Most of us are, I think are on board especially on the progressive and left side, about, mitigating our involvement in overseas conflicts, especially where it can put us in a position where we are seen as a recruitment tool for ISIS. Iraq and Afghanistan being, key examples of that. But all things are not painted with the same brush. And what you're arguing for is exactly what I'm talking about, which is you do it, but you do it in a way which, strategically Mattis was arguing for, in theory anyways, that we want it out, but you do it in such a way that that area of the country is held, and there is no excuse for the Turks now to go in and slaughter the Kurdish rebels there, which they're not. There is no excuse now. They're going to be dead in 2 weeks. Did we lose him, Lady B? I guess so. Okay, we got one more. Yeah. We got one more caller. So let's get. Yeah.
We have Matt from Chicago.
Cool. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Hal.
Welcome.
Now, just thank you. To clarify, are you on the air next week or no?
I will be. Yeah.
Okay, I'm still going to say this now. Thank you for everything that you do.
Appreciate it.
It is a very, very, very important job that you have decided to undertake. You don't have to do this. You
It's
probably
true.
make more than enough money doing acting.
Yep.
But the fact that you decide to do this means a lot to us over here in Chicago and, well, worldwide. So thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thanks very much. I try. I view it as a civic duty, and I feel like, it's just like one of the things I can do as a citizen that matters, So, but anyways, go ahead. I appreciate the Mutual Appreciation Club, and I appreciate you for listening. So go ahead and make your,
I'll make this quick.
Yeah, go for it.
This is the line that he has drawn where I truly think that they're going to initiate the 25th Amendment. I don't see a way out of this before we take power, and I don't think that they're going to let him shut down the government for 2 to 3 weeks. I don't. I think this is the part where he truly has crossed the line, and while Pence is evil as can be, he's at least stable.
Right. He's got a manageable form of crazy is the idea.
Yeah, he's not going to pull out of Syria. He's not going to just hand things to Putin. And this is the part where they give him the 25th.
Well, it's especially from your mouth to God's ears. I'm very doubtful about that. But Pence would only do this with the idea that if he did so, he could also negotiate his resignation beforehand and a pardon. That would be a long negotiation, probably 3-4 months, to get that to start happening. I don't think they're going to walk in there and cuff him and drag him away from the desk, screaming and going, "By the way, also, Mexico's still building my wall," like whatever craziness. I don't see it that, you know what I mean? I don't see that happening. What I do see, if anything close to what you're talking about is possible, it would entail Pence and the rest of them engaging in a discussion with the president about the 25th Amendment, going, "We will enact this, and you will get, after you get kicked out, you will be found competent to stand trial, even though you're not competent to be president." There's a huge difference between the two. And Mueller will come after you. We can negotiate a pardon and an evacuation for you on your way out. The only downside and the only problem with that argument and that possibility, which would be the most logical kind of balanced circumstance where that would occur, is that Pence is dirty too. I appreciate the call. We're running out of time. But Pence has as many problems as the rest of the upper part of the Republican Party, which is also why they're tied in and protecting him at every turn, including Lindsey Graham, whose email was hacked before the last election, and when he suddenly started becoming really pro-Trump all of a sudden. So, anyways, we're done today. I've got to hit the road and head to Northern Ohio to visit with family and all that kind of stuff. So, no post show today. That's why I got in a little bit early. Thank you guys in the chat room so much for all your support. I will see you guys next week. We'll see if any of this shifts over. But it's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for Dick K, and we will see you next week. Love you guys. I'll do a little bit of a post show. But thank you, Lady B, hanging up. You're awesome. Bye. Yeah, so I just I wanted, I'll be a couple of moments with you guys or whatever before we got to hit the road. But do well, I'll hang tight if you can. Yeah. Oh, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And I will be on next week. We will have a post show next week because I'll be in Vegas at the home studio, able to extend and all that kind of stuff with full with the entire system flying instead of swinging on my laptop on my dad's Wi-Fi in his house. But thank you guys. Yeah, let's see. Oh my God, no post show. I love my Saturdays with everyone. Happy solstice, everyone. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and happy solstice to everybody as well. Mike Pence is up to his albino ears and all this. He absolutely is. Hal was in my dream last night. He was my drama teacher. How awesome would that be? But classes were being held in the Trinity Bellwoods Park in Toronto. I think I'd make a decent teacher. And I'm only saying that because of how annoyed I was with both the Dustin Hoffman and the what's his name from House of Cards, who had his acting class on Master Class. I was like, God, both of these suck. What is wrong with you people? So they're the last two people, maybe great actors, but the last people you need acting teaching from or acting advice from. Oh my God. So I think I need to do that. I think I need to do a stand-up class and I need to do an acting class and just put it online. How YouTube takes 24%. I guess it helps me make 76%. Yes, this is true. I don't think they take that much. But Bears. Folks in Florida need to be concerned about the 2020 election given their governor is a Trump pansy. No question. There's going to be a bunch of federal laws passed over the next little bit, and they'll be buried in other bills. I think the House is going to do this to protect voting rights and make the Republicans strip them out and get the bad press about it or let them get through. So James Patterson has a right class. It's actually great, yeah. Take your dad's laptop. Everything was perfect. No, it's my laptop. It was just my dad's Wi-Fi. But the video quality seems a little pixely. Was it pixely for you guys? Maybe it's just because I'm sending video up and getting it back down, and that's why it's pixely. But it was awesome. Take your class. I love the 80s was my inspiration for the graduation project I did senior year scrapbook about the 80s. Oh, that's awesome. Wishing Camden a very Merry Christmas. Oh, thank you. Florida governor's already dragging his feet on restoring felons' rights. Oh, he will. You can't wait for these guys to do this stuff. You just cannot. So, gotta go. Oh, enjoy Marrakesh. That's one of the places I want to go, Julie. So you got to tell me all about it. Send pictures. But hold on. Are you guys right outside the door? What? Is Camden right outside the door, or is he?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's got his magic wand. I was trying to.
Oh, he's got his magic wand. Cam, come here. You want to say hi to everybody and say Merry Christmas before I sign off?
Can cast a magic spell.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to pull this out there. 1 second. Here we go.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
La la la. Hold on. I'll set this down. He's got his Harry Potter wand.
Patiently waiting for you to be done.
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's right. Okay, I won't. Thank you. Everybody says Merry Christmas, Camden, and they say they need a magic wand too. And they go Cam the Wizard. And did you take the dog swimming? Don't remind him. No, the water's way too cold.
Oh, tell him about your boots.
Oh, what happened to your boots?
He learned that if he goes too high into the water goes in his boots.
Oh no.
And it got so cold, I was like, it's hurting. I was walking like this the whole time.
You filled your galoshes with water?
I filled this boot. I was like this. I was like walking like that the whole time.
It was a good lesson.
Because you learned valuable lessons, but there's a thin line. There's a thin line between boots and buckets, and if you're wearing them on your feet and you step too deep in the water.
Yep.
Can I have a hug? I'm glad you didn't run into the water and freeze. Was it cold? Was the water really cold?
I have a spell that makes you stop talking.
It was very cold. Look at that. Wow. It's quite the spell, Cam.
Oh, I got it. I guess that's me leaving. Okay, love you. Okay, bye, guys.
Okay, I'll do this spell again.
Oh, see you next week.